Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be about how to deal with late fall cold fronts. And the first thing I'm going to talk about are the bait choices that I deploy, that I purposely tie on prior to going out. Especially when I'm dealt with, 50-degree days and it drops down to mid 30s and it's bright bluebird skies, very cold outside, at least 15 to 20 degree temperature swing from day to daytime. So these are the choices that I have, are a spinner bait, a jerk bait, or a crank bait with a rattle trap thrown in there, a smaller size. As you can see, these are the only full-size things that I have down here are the two jerk baits. Other than that, everything else is smaller sized lipless crankbait, square bill, super shallow ones, and smaller sized spinner baits. Fishing them on just everything downsized. That's the whole deal with catching fish in cold front conditions. Normally they will full throttle and chase stuff. When it's bright bluebird skies, they're not really wanting to chase stuff. They're going to sit tight to cover and not really chase down or fully commit to chase down something unless they really want it. But normally 90% of the time that's not going to happen. So you have to downsize everything and make it seem like it would just be a simple meal for them if they were just to come an extra 2 foot. You'd be surprised what kind of a difference that could make for you. So downsize everything: line, bait, rod and reel combo, everything. I tend to fish a little bit slower. Not so much on the trolling motor. I usually turn down the trolling motor a little bit. Fish will be most active during the warmest part of the day, which will be late noon. Best time will probably be about, I'd say probably around noon to maybe 1 o'clock would be the warmest part of the day for you. I try to downsize everything I possibly can. Fish as slow as I can and just keep those things, make sure your gear's ready. So normally I would throw most of the stuff all on bait cast stuff, but when cold fronts come, I downsize down to like 6-pound line. Basically throw for cold fronts and late fall is what I throw during the winter. 6 to 8 pound mono on a spinning rod, medium action. 7 foot, doesn't have to be 7 foot, could be 6 foot, whatever you're have to fish with. This is another one. It's a little bit lighter of a setup. I could throw a little bit more sensitive of a rod than the Tourney Special, but the Tourney Special is a budget-friendly combo setup that you can buy from your local Bass Pro Shop. It is a one-piece rod and reel. 5-2-1 is the speed of the gear ratio. Holds a 6 to 8 pound line, really easy, really nice. I have very few problems with this. You can yo-yo these rattle traps, whether up shallow or offshore, for finicky bass. You would be surprised what other species of fish you can easily catch when you're just simply yo-yoing these, where you cast it out there, let it sink to the bottom, and you basically rip it up off the bottom about 2 foot and you let it flutter back down. You kind of rip it back up and flutter down. You don't have to touch bottom with it necessarily. You could do it over 60 feet of water and yo-yo this thing about 30 foot down. You'd be surprised. I'm a big fan of tactical bassing, so I've watched many hours of them talking about this specific lure. Not this exact type or brand name, but very similar. They are, I think they fished the LV 500. is what Matt and Tim like to fish. So that, I would definitely yo-yo that. I probably wouldn't fish this up shallow, like just burning it and stuff. That's stuff I would do prior to a cold front, not necessarily as a cold front set in and you're kind of dealt with a little bit harsher and tougher conditions. A simple crankbait, a shallow one that goes less than a foot, you can never go wrong with one of these. This is a man's baby -1. It is an older lure. They're, I guess the new ones suck. These are close to 20 years old. But I simply put these on 8-pound mono. That's another trick that you can do too. Instead of always fishing with braided or fluorocarbon, you could change up to monofilament. If you think about that, monofilament was the first fishing line. Guys have been catching giant bass since the 70s. Really, big bass hunters have been around since the 70s. Believe it or not. And so you can never go wrong with, that's what they used back then. They didn't have fluorocarbon or braid or anything like that. It's been around for a long time. It's a tried and true thing. The best thing about that in the wintertime is it stretches and it allows the fish to have it just a second longer where the hooks will sink in and be able to just the whole recipe of light line on a spinning rod that's just finally matched up. There's nothing better than that, especially with the end result with it. But don't get me wrong, you still catch them on bait cast gear. I highly recommend and downsizing your whole presentation, the whole thing. The other side of the cold front of not downsizing is upsizing to me. Over the years, I've caught plenty of 6 and 7 pound bass in the Pacific Northwest on a simple spinnerbait. A lot of times it was a 1/2 ounce spinnerbait. This is currently a 1 ounce spinnerbait. I throw it on a 7'6", 20 pound fluorocarbon, medium heavy rod, 20 pound fluorocarbon. The other part of that is going with a gigantic swim bait, like a 10-inch mag draft. I'm going for a gigantor, like I'm trying to do Saturday. Even a glide bait. But back to the simple baits of the cold front, a downsized spinnerbait. I'm going to get a lot more bites with a spinnerbait that looks like this rather than looking like this, like a normal one. But don't get me wrong, they will still throttle this thing compared to a full-size 3/4 ounce or even that big one. You should get more bites on it, but you put that big one in front of a big fish, and that fish is going to eat that. Back to this, I've caught many big fish in the month of November on this very spinnerbait right here. It's a War Eagle Get 5 Quick. It's designed by Mike McClellan. It is a bad little son of a gun. It got this little turtleback blade that just, I'll throw it on 17 pound fluorocarbon to 12 pound fluorocarbon. Sometimes I'd even throw it on 10 pound fluorocarbon on a spinning rod and reel if I had to. So that's the spinnerbait. Jerk baits are the same thing. 300 series. You can throw this easily on this bait caster right here. The other part of it, you can easily go for a smaller size one, like the 200 size. This is the KVD, Strike King KVD 300 series. Runs about 4 to 6 foot. 3 to 6 foot, something like that. Depending on line size. And, the smaller one, the KVD 200 series, easily can be thrown on a spinning rod and reel with monofilament. With 6 pound line. I would definitely throw this on 6 pound line. From the bank, from the shore, from the boat. Smallmouth will tear these up. I've had some very tremendous days. I've had one of my best days bass fishing with a jerkbait in the springtime. And it was all due to this. This little sticker right here. This is what is known as a suspend dot. It is a lead sticker that you can stick and unstick off of your lures, and you can help and manipulate the suspend rate, the fall rate, everything on it. The buoyancy, you can make it purposely sink. You can make it really like just really suspend. It is phenomenal. You don't hear of it all that much, but the company Storm makes it. I just keep it in a nice little Ziploc baggie. But suspend dots made by Storm. I highly recommend getting these. They're super cool. You can put 2 or 3 of them on there. You can cut them in half. You can cut them with a pair of scissors to really fine and tune in the fall rate of a bait. You could really manipulate a jerk bait without changing the hooks or anything, or the split rings or anything like that, which is really cool little deal there. Last but not least is going to be my dark horse, and that's going to be the ever so underspin, a micro underspin. And this is featured on a episode of Tactical Bass and talking about Cool Baits Lure Company. This has gotten all wet, so I'm just about to throw this away. But it's a 1/4 ounce. It's a little itty bitty dude. They usually throw like a 2.8 Kitech on there. I have a couple of these Strike King ones on here that I'm simply thread up and show you guys. Like I said, some people when they rig their swim baits up, they cut the head off for a flusher fit against the back of the head. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Or I just simply cut the head off and then reapply it to get more life out of the swim bait itself. Let's go ahead and mark that. Alright. So it looks something like that. Obviously, before I went fishing and actually fished with this, I would trim that head off and really make it a fine cut. But you throw this on 6-pound mono, even fluorocarbon, or even like a 10-pound braid on a spinning rod and reel, or even just straight 6-pound mono on this, and you throw this all around, you're gonna get bit on this. Something's gonna eat this. There you have it. That is just a fish catching machine right there. You could throw that in 20, 30 feet. You could throw that in 3 feet. You could throw that in 10 feet. That thing is going to get chopped. So there you go. Cool baits. Remember that. Anyway, that's about a wrap for the video for how to deal with late fall cold fronts, or how I deal with late fall cold fronts. This is what works for me. It may not work for you. You may try some of these tactics and some of these baits and find out it works for you, and find out that you're catching fish and some other people aren't catching fish. One thing I did forget to mention was this bait right here. This is a Strike King 1XS. It is a 1/4 ounce crankbait. The lips on these are pretty brittle, but if you were to look at Tackle Warehouse around Christmas time, or even Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's, you could more than likely find these baits on clearance. It's how I got this very bait right here on clearance. It's a Sexy Chartreuse. It runs less than a foot underneath the water. At a slow retrieve, it goes about 6 to 7 inches underneath the surface on about 6-pound line. It is a phenomenal bait, especially for cold fronts. It goes right along with that Bandit Footloose, this one and this one. I forgot to talk about either one of these, but I've talked about them before, especially this one in past videos. It's a fish catcher when the weather gets cold and harsh to catch fish on normal baits. So anyway, thank you for watching. This is the end of this video. How to deal with late fall cold fronts. Once again, this is what works for me. Try it. Let me know. Comment below. Once again, hit the like button. I appreciate each and every one of you folks that watch my videos. Hopefully you guys are out there catching some fish, utilizing the same tactics that I utilize, and I catch very big bass. Anyway, once again, thanks for watching. Swimbait79 out.